about is elderly residents in this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anybody else here for public comment? Okay. We're going to move on to Planning Commissioner comments and suggestions. Let's start with Commissioner Zick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things that happened this afternoon. One of them was, and I wish we had more people here. In fact, my whole comment points in the direction of encouraging engagement. I go by Fairview Park on the way to this meeting. Sunset is occurring. Incredible. And it occurred to me that Fairview Park is one of the very few places, probably the best place in Costa Mesa, to observe our sunsets. It's such a precious place, and a lot of people have put hard work into preserving it, and that's the citizen engagement. I saw something else today, and it was a very long comment somebody had put on Facebook on one of the Costa Mesa pages, where there's a lot of discourse. And it was a person lamenting the condition of Harbor Boulevard between 19th Street and Wilson, and contrasting her observations with that stretch of the city and the area north of the 405 where all the performing art centers are. She had that in her comment. And the contrast within Costa Mesa. And she said that's the top 1% in the area along Harbor, the bottom 1% in terms of the city. She hoped there would be more engagement to improve that. There was a council member that actually commented and said, I hear you, I'm aware of it, I'm working on it. And it just occurred to me that if we had more people actually come to these meetings and point out the things that they're seeing that are good and the things they're seeing that could be improved, we'd have a better chance of addressing it. So, just a couple observations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Woods.
Well, this is my last commission meeting. I'm at the end of my 2-year tenure, and I just wanted to say thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you to my fellow commissioners. I enjoy their diverse perspectives, and I like that we don't agree all the time. I think that's really important because you have to see, if you can evaluate a project and see it on multiple dimensions, and you can still get a group of people with different perspectives to agree on that, then it's a strong project. Thank you to staff for always being very professional and detailed and putting up with all of my questions. And personally, it's just been a really enriching experience. I enjoyed it. I end up reading about planning on my free time. It's just something I hadn't really expected, but I love it. And so I'm going to reapply, and I hope that some of you will support me in my quest to serve again. Thanks.
Commissioner Harlan.
Well, I first want to say to Chair Andranian, thank you very much for your service. I echo the comments of our council member, but more importantly, because I've sat next to you for 2 years, well, close enough, Byron's a little bit of a buffer here, that you have run a very tight meeting every time. It's not an easy task. That is probably one of the more thankless jobs up here on the dais. And I've appreciated your ability to manage the meetings effectively. I know you've served on this commission for quite a while. It's evident in our community the things that you've done. So I want to thank you personally for that. As well for the fellow commissioners who may or may not be returning. I've enjoyed the last 2 years of your service and certainly your perspectives. It's been a really good group to work with, and I think that what has marked this body as opposed to others of late is that it has been, even though we've had some very vibrant discussions, a pretty cooperative effort. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Derrickle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few items echoing the comments of Mayor Pro Tem and also Commissioner Harlan about your leadership of the Commission over the last 2 years. You've really kind of marshaled through some really thorny issues relative to sober living homes and the small lot ordinance and the ADU ordinance, and I think the city's much better actually for your leadership on the commission, and I appreciated the institutional knowledge you brought to the commission when I first came on, so best of luck to you as you move forward. Thank you for your service to the community. I also wanted to acknowledge the departure of our legal counsel, Yolanda Summerhill, who had been serving as legal counsel for the commission, well, at least as long as I've been on it, and way before that. Yolanda is now an assistant city attorney with the city of Newport Beach, and so I'm sure that's going to be a great opportunity for her, but I will miss her and her counsel and her great sense of humor, so I wish her the best of luck. And finally, on kind of a last matter that I've been following very closely, as probably you're all aware, Governor Newsom filed a lawsuit against the city of Huntington Beach on Friday relative to, as the Attorney General's office claims, their failure to provide sufficient housing for their population. And I think the governor told us in his campaign that this was probably coming. He certainly made housing a priority of his. I never thought he was bluffing, and it's clear now with the lawsuit in Huntington Beach, despite what some think about the motive, he's not bluffing. I don't think that'll be the last city, but I think he's also wise enough, and having watched him act as Attorney General, that he's going to give cities and counties a chance to kind of get their act in order with respect to their housing elements as the new RENA cycle comes up. And so I'm going to be very vigilant about making sure that Costa Mesa does not become a target of the state of California, and that we put in place in the next housing element a regime that encourages multifamily housing, higher densities, higher FARs, so that we can make sure we're adequately housing the population that we have and that we're projected to have. And so I just wanted to put that on the record that I'm following the issue very closely. Housing is very important to me. I want my kids and my granddaughter and my coming granddaughters to ultimately be able to stay in Orange County if they choose to and afford to live here. So we clearly have a shortage of housing, and so I'm going to make sure that we do everything we can to provide that housing for our population. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. All right, so as has been discussed here tonight, this is probably my last meeting, assuming that City Council keeps the agenda and goes forward and seats the new Planning Commission in the next meeting, which I fully expect they will be. So. It's kind of, well, I'll just say it's been a real honor to be able to serve for 4 years as a planning commissioner for this city. I decided that I wasn't going to reapply. I have some other things that I need to kind of concentrate on right now, and besides that, I think there's a new city council, and I think that they probably have some ideas of where they want the city to go, and I think they should be encouraged to put the staff together that they think can do that, and that includes Planning Commission. I want to say, Councilmember Stevens, I really appreciate you coming out and saying kind words tonight. I think that really means a lot to me. I know that we've had, some disagreements politically, but I really appreciate it, and I think it really means a lot that you would come out and do that. It says a lot about you and about your character, and I really appreciate it. I also want to say thank you for allowing me to serve on the Planning Commission for the last 2 years, because as everybody knows, the Planning Commission really serves at the pleasure of the City Council. So we are all here to do essentially to sit almost kind of as proxies for the City Council. In smaller communities, they don't have a separate planning commission, but in larger communities like like ours, you'll split that up so that the city council can focus on kind of big picture things, and the planning commission can do some of the other tasks that would otherwise bog down the city council. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I want to thank all the city council members, both in the prior term and this term, who've allowed me to serve. It's been really an honor and a pleasure. And while I will probably appreciate being able to watch Monday Night Football again, it's been a real honor and a great experience. I also want to thank the staff. It's been great working with you. I know you guys do so much work, and I wonder about how you guys kind of square the time that you spend here. Some of these meetings went to midnight or past midnight in the past. In the past, and I know that it's a big sacrifice for both you and your families, and I appreciate all the work and the efforts that you put in. There really is, and if members of the public, the staff reports are in the back. For every meeting, the staff puts together a report. They brief essentially the commissioners and everybody else, and it's a lot of time goes into these things and a lot of effort. And that's the only reason why we're able to get through meetings at all, is because of the staff. So if it wasn't for the staff, the Planning Commission would be lost, and really appreciate all your work. To my fellow commissioners, I want to say that it's been a great experience, and I served with a different planning commission 2 years ago, and when I was kind of new, and that was a unique experience in itself. But working with this planning commission has really been a lot of fun, and one of the reasons is because, like Commissioner Woods says, we didn't always kind of see eye to eye on things, but I think I cannot remember a time when we were not collegial with one another and where things kind of got personal at all. I don't think it ever did. I think it was a really great experience. Commissioner Harlan, I always looked forward to your comments on things, even though you kind of waited till the end all the time. But there was items where I'd be like, I want to know what Jeff has to say, because you always have a very unique way of looking at stuff, and anyways, it's been very helpful. I think your comments have been super helpful for me in being on this planning commission, and I always look forward to your opinion. Vice Chairman Erico, so I think that it's funny because I was supposedly like the older guy on this commission, even though I'd only been here for 2 years. But you have such, you talked about institutional knowledge. I think of all the people up here, you're the person with the most institutional knowledge up here. And so I think that your contributions are invaluable, and I think that moving forward into the next kind of term, I think that the city is in very good hands knowing that you're up here. So I really appreciated your insights, and even though sometimes I didn't agree with you on things, and you didn't agree with me on things, it was always good to get that stuff out, anyways, I appreciate all your help that you've given on the commission. Now to my left, we have Commissioner Zick. You've reapplied, as I understand it, and I really hope that the City Council backs your application and that you're put back on the commission. You've only been here for, how long has it been? 6 months, yeah. That's, I mean, I think that your insight and what you've brought to the Planning Commission has been astounding. I think you asked some of the best questions, probably the most questions, the best questions of anyone up here, and I know that you put a lot of time into researching every single item, and I wish that, I hope that the City Council sees fit to putting you back up here so that you can continue serving, because I think that you'd be a real asset to the city. Commissioner Navarro Woods, I think the same as far as you're concerned. I would totally back your application as well for what it's worth, and I hope the City Council does too. I think that certainly the last Planning Commission, we didn't have really anybody with a background like yours, and I think that has added kind of a different layer, certainly than the last Planning Commission. We've had kind of a different layer to the analysis of every single item that comes up here. So I think you'd make a great. I think you are a great Planning Commissioner, and I think you continue to make a great Planning Commissioner. It would really serve the city well. So best of luck, and I hope that for whatever my word counts, you have my support. So anyhow, that's about all I have. I really appreciate everybody's help. And for Ms. Parker, seeing as you did mention me in your talk, I'd be happy to talk to you about that afterwards. I wasn't really clear as to what you were getting at there, to tell you the truth. So if you have questions, you know how to reach me, and I'm always available, although now I won't be up here anymore, so.
I'll try.
Okay. All right, so with that, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the Planning Commission staff or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for discussion. Items removed from the consent calendar will be discussed and voted upon immediately following Planning Commission action on the remainder of the consent calendar. Members of the public who wish to discuss consent calendar items should come forward to the microphone now and let us know what number you want to be discussed. Okay. The only item on tonight's consent calendar is the minutes for the meeting of January 14th. We have a motion to move the consent calendar.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the consent calendar.
Somebody want a second? I'll second. All right, there's a motion and a second. I'll call for the question.
That motion carried 5-0.
Okay, let's move on to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Public hearing item number 1.
Public hearing item number 1. Code Amendment CO-18-05. Amendment to Title 13, Chapter 8, Table 13-115 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code.
Good evening, Chairman Andranian and Commissioners. I'm Will Glean, the zoning administrator. As you can tell, this is my first time down here at the Senior Center, so I apologize if I'm a little rough. Basically, what I'm presenting tonight is a small change to the non-commercial portable signs code. We had some questions raised by the City Council at their meeting of September 4th, 2018. So in response, we attended the meeting of September 18th and heard some concerns that City Council had with the time limits for the non-commercial portable signs that were as part of the code for residential zones. The original non-commercial portable sign ordinance received its first reading on July 5th, 2016, and it was approved on a 5-0 vote, with the second reading occurring in August of 2016, with a 3-0 vote since 2 of the council members were absent. So just in case, on the screen is the definition of what a non-commercial portable sign is. It's basically a sign that can be moved around, but has no advertising. So it could be a political statement, it could be, geez, I think the world is beautiful, anything like that. That examples generally include, but not limited to, the they espouse a political or religious viewpoint, and the signs commenting on public officials or matters of public discourse. So we do have some size limitations. Non-commercial portable signs that are placed on private property cannot be over 5 square feet in area and 6 feet in height. They need to be placed in the ground, whether they're in private property or, as you can see, in the public right-of-way, which also has a maximum 5-foot area but 3-foot height. And they all have to be placed, as I said, directly in the ground. Now, for non-commercial signs, we adopted the same time limits, whether they were in the public right-of-way or on private property, which was between 6 a.m. Friday to 6 p.m. Sunday of any week period. But in the 6 weeks leading to the election, those standards were relaxed so that the signs could remain out during the election period. However, then, at that September 18th meeting, City Council did give direction to planning to remove the time limits for any non-commercial portable signs that are placed on private residential properties. So the same time restrictions for these non-commercial portable signs would still apply for commercial zones, industrial, and institutional zones. And what the chart on the screen shows is what needs to be deleted in order to make this direction occur. So, on that basis, planning staff is recommending that Planning Commission recommend to City Council that the project is exempt under CEQA guidelines, Section 1506 B13, General Rule Exemption, and that the City Council give first reading to the ordinance approving Code Amendment 1805, amending portions of Title 13 to remove the time periods for placement and display of non-commercial portable signs on private residentially zoned properties. I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman, I have a few. So I want to be clear, Ms. Bounds-Clean, on the ordinance which says non-commercial portable signs on private property. That seemed to indicate it does not include public right-of-way in front of a private residence.
That's correct. So if you have a parkway in front of your house, it would not apply to any signs in the parkway, only behind the property line on your private property.
So in that instance, then, the time limits are still in place for the right-of-way in front of a residence?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Zick?
I just want to be clear, if there was a limit on the number of signs you could have in your front lawn.
No, there is not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. At this point, I would invite any members of the public who wish to speak on this item to the lectern right there to my right. Anyone? No? All right. Okay, then I'll close the public hearing and ask commissioners to make a motion or discussion on the, actually I'd prefer just a motion and then we can discuss the motion. Somebody want to move the item? Tell you what, I'll do it. I will move that we find the project is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, under CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3, and recommend that the City Council give first reading to an ordinance approving Code Amendment 18-05, amending portions of Title 13 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code zoning regulations to remove the time periods for placement and display of non-commercial portable signs on private residentially zoned properties. That's the motion.
Second.
All right, there's a motion, a second, any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the question.
That motion carried 5-0.
Okay, and that's not a decision that can be appealed, is it?
No, because you actually have final.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right, let's move on to public hearing item number 2.
Public hearing item number 2. Planning application 18-45. Conditional use permit to allow a full bathroom in a new detached accessory structure in an R1 zone located at 466 East 18th Street. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
All right, staff presentation.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Caitlin Walsh, Assistant Planner. Tonight we have a proposal for a conditional use permit to allow a full bathroom in a new detached accessory structure in an R1 zone. The project site is located on the east side of Costa Mesa along East 18th Street and is zoned R1, single-family residential. Surrounding properties are residentially zoned and developed properties similar to the subject property. The existing development includes a 2-bedroom, single-family home that was built in the mid-1940s, as well as a detached non-conforming garage and carport at the rear of the property. In 2008, the previous owner completed a master bedroom addition and remodel of the existing residence, and as a result, the newly remodeled kitchen and master bedroom are positioned at the back of the residence as seen in this slide. Here are photos of the existing residence. The architectural style resembles an early California cottage-style home. Here you'll see the existing detached garage and carport that are proposed to be demolished. Properties along East 18th Street are alley loaded with garage access off of the public alley. The proposed project involves demolishing the existing non-conforming detached 2-car garage and carport structure and constructing an 835 square foot accessory building consisting of a 2-car garage and 395 square feet of living area. The living area is not considered to be an accessory dwelling unit because no kitchen is provided. Here's the applicant's proposed site plan. The detached structure, outlined in yellow, is located at the rear of the property, with the front of the garage facing the public alley. The proposed accessory structure complies with the city's residential development standards, including setbacks, building height, and parking. And the proposed project would provide 2 garage spaces and 1 open space, shown in purple. This project would bring the property into conformance with current parking requirements. The proposed 395 square foot living area within the accessory structure includes a bedroom, full bathroom, family room, and wine storage room, and no sink or wet bar is proposed. Detached accessory structures are permitted by code. However, when a full bathroom is proposed instead of a half bathroom, a conditional use permit is required, which is the reason this application is before you this evening. It should be noted that an accessory dwelling unit would not be allowed at this property due to its lot size. The applicant's request this evening is to provide additional living area in the form of a detached accessory structure, since an addition to the main residence would require a complete reconfiguration of the existing floor plan, which was just remodeled in 2008. The design of the accessory structure reflects the existing single-family residence in form, massing, and materials, and the family room includes 2 collapsible sliding glass doors which face the backyard area, promoting an open and inclusive design with the existing residence. Lastly, the orientation of the garage in the rear is consistent with other developments along East 18th Street and in the immediate neighborhood. In addition to our standard conditions of approval for residential development, staff has included a condition that requires the recordation of a land use restriction to prohibit a second residential unit at this property. And with that, staff's recommendation this evening is that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines Sections 15303, Class 3, New Construction, and to approve Planning Application 18-45, subject to conditions of approval. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant has also prepared a presentation this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? All right. Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing and I'll invite the applicant to the lectern to address the matter. before you start, just wanted to know if you had a chance to review the conditions of approval and if you're in agreement with them.
I am.
You have and you are?
I have, and I am.
All right, thanks.
I'm not. My name's Randy Ketek. My wife, Kimberly, is also in the front row. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen, tonight. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to add much to what Caitlin just did. I thought it was a wonderful job. I have some simple goals. First and foremost, I need a third bedroom. I have two sons. I'd like a garage that can accommodate 2 cars. This older garage that was built in 1946 is only 18 feet wide, and the laundry was an afterthought, so it sticks out into the parking area, so I can only get 1 car in there presently. I'd also like, in these older 1946 homes, there's not a proper family room. I'd like to get a proper family room. Additionally, I collect wine, and I'd like a place to keep my ever-growing wine collection. We'd like to accomplish these goals by preserving the existing character of the backyard. As Caitlin alluded to, there was a considerable amount of design and planning and money spent on creating that indoor-outdoor lifestyle back there. And selfishly, we'd also like to preserve a 60-year-old avocado tree that gives us about 1,000 avocados a year. We believe the most desirable way to do this is to not remodel the existing structure, but to do so with a detached addition. And I hope the following slides will help you come to that conclusion. So just real quickly, by way of background, we bought this house in September of last year. We wanted a single-story house to be our retirement home. I have 2 kids. As you can see in the next slide, if we can move to the next slide. They're a sophomore and senior in high school. My older son is going to college next year. For the 2 of us going forward, we only really require that single-family home. What we really did was fell in love with this house for what the previous owners did in design, especially what they did in the backyard. We knew going in, though, that we were going to be a little short on bedroom space and a family room, and we looked at the best ways to accomplish that addition. And again, this detached structure seems to be the most, it seems to be the best answer, both physically and economically. Next slide, please. Just by way of background, I have some slides. That's what the house looked like in 2007, front and rear. So clearly the previous owners did a fantastic job in the remodel, really bringing back the charm of the 1940s California ranch. Next slide, please. Just to kind of show you, I think Caitlin already had one of these pictures, the indoor-outdoor living area that we're trying to preserve. These are actual pictures of our backyard, recent. Next slide, please. As Caitlin has already alluded to, if you look at the rear of the house where the addition of that master bedroom is, and then again there's a kitchen, and from the picture you can see that deck, it'd be really difficult to, and cost prohibitive to, as many of my neighbors have done, is punch out the back of that house to add any additional space, while still at the same time preserving the charm and the character of that backyard. I put a note on there. The dining room is presently converted to a 3rd bedroom where my older son is staying. Caitlin, I'm going to skip this slide because Caitlin's already touched on the garage being non-conforming. So if we go to the design constraints, I'm going to skip all the way to the slide where we have the green area, the backyard that I'm trying to preserve. And as you saw from some of those previous pictures, this is really the area that I'm trying to frame between the existing structure and the new structure. Thereby, both structures will have sliding glass doors opening to an outdoor dining area, a large outdoor deck, and really preserving the width of the garage, thereby using the least desirable space from an outdoor living area along the alley for the additional 395 square feet. Going to the next slide, I called out individually what exists and what we're trying to preserve. The brown deck off the back, that the master bedroom and kitchen open to, the existing built-in fire pit, the dining area, you you can see the large avocado tree and the barbecue area. Next slide, please. Caitlin's already shown you the rendering. My architect did a rendering in the lower right-hand corner. What his intention there is the existing sliding doors on the house are 7 feet. He's matched the sliding doors that open from the alley's structure to the backyard, also 7 feet. I'm not a big fan of those transom windows above it, so I'm probably going to remove those and lower the roof, because what I'm really trying to do here is preserve the character and charm of the existing residence and putting a structure in the back that doesn't take away from the existing residence but really complements it. Next slide, please. The design that Kayla went over, I just want to reiterate that it will fit 2 cars. You can see in the rear of the garage, the laundry area, it's a dedicated laundry area, so it no longer sticks into the 20 feet of clear width. The bedroom for my son when he comes back from college will be much needed, and a proper family room now that we'll enjoy while my kids are still in the house, that I'll eventually probably convert to my home office. And again, the wine storage room, as previously mentioned. I put a note on the next slide that we're new residents to the city of Costa Mesa. We're happy to be here. I've read up on, over the last few months, on the challenges and sensitivities the city's had with ADUs and illegal ADUs, and I realized that there was a lot of discussion around the square footage. I think it landed somewhere around 780 or 700 square feet. My lot is 7,500 square feet, so obviously I don't qualify for an ADU. But I want to stress that in no way, shape, or form do I want an ADU. I too am sensitive to ADUs. I feel as if there's several of them already on my street in the alley as we go up and down. So I just wanted to highlight, put this note that we'll happily put a deed restriction on there. This is for our family's use and no one else's. The total square footage we're going to have on this lot after we, if approved, after we build the ADU is still only going to bring it to 1,657 square feet, which is still quite small compared to much of the block in the neighborhood, which I've outlined in red there. Many of my neighbors have already expanded their units both horizontally, vertically, to much larger FARs. The next slide, I took a screenshot from Google Earth just to kind of give you, the red outline is, this area was taken in May of last year for reference, and it shows my house outlined in red, and you can see how many of the neighboring units already have rear structures. And from the bottom 4 pictures, you can see many of them are even 2 stories along the alley with dedicated staircases. The third picture is my immediate neighbor to the right. What I'm trying to point out is I believe this request is wholly compatible with the other uses in the neighborhood. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, I might go early in the proceedings tonight. Well, first of all, as an East Side resident, I want to welcome you to the neighborhood. Secondly, I want to thank you. Your letter, which is on handwritten 12, is very straightforward, brief. I wish most applicants could take a cue here and be as judicious and thoughtful in putting together materials for the commission to consider, because I think this pretty much summarized everything for me. The only question I really have here does relate to the ADU, and I know you've been very clear in saying you have no intention of operating it as an ADU and you're willing to do a land use restriction. I'm curious, and this is more of just a hypothetical, had your property been eligible at 7,900 square feet, would you consider doing an ADU? No? No. Okay.
I think the only difference would be rather than come to the planning commission, I would go direct to the building.
Right. I'm just asking because I'm trying to get a sense of where the market is for developing ADUs. Personally, I think our ordinance is a little more restrictive than it needs to be, but it is what it is. So I just wanted to get a sense of people who are proposing these, what their interests are. So thank you. I think this is a great project. I mean, I'm happy to move on it later, but certainly very sensitive to the scale of the neighborhood. I know this area very well. I know the house, having driven by it dozens of times. This seems like a great project, so congratulations.
Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Woods.
I just have a quick one. Why didn't you consider doing a half bath and then you would just be able to build what you want to build rather than requesting a full bath and coming before the planning commission?
I think I'm a little confused.
So if you...
What would I get with a half? It has a stand-up shower and sink, and my theory is my son, who will be returning from college, takes showers and uses sinks, so anything less than that would mean he would have to come through the yard in the morning.
Okay. You wanted to keep him outside then?
No, I don't necessarily want to keep him outside, but
yeah.
I don't think he wants to run through the backyard with a towel every morning.
Okay, I wasn't sure. You know, we've had applicants in the past. In fact, one of the applicants that was written about in this package, they needed a full bath for a very specific reason. And I wasn't sure if you were coming forward with a specific reason for that. They had ADA considerations, and I wasn't sure if you had something similar or along the same lines. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for the applicant, commissioners? All right.
Mr. Chairman, just quick, actually it's a light question. I'm trying to keep it light. Was there a competition that the boys had to go through to determine who was going to get that?
It's ongoing.
Okay, I figured this was okay. Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions for the applicant, commissioners? All right, thank you. You'll have an opportunity after members of the public speak to either rebut, address, or answer some more questions. So at this point, I'd like to invite any members of the public who wish to address this application to the microphone. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Judith M. Gilo, and I have lived at 469 East 18th Street, Costa Mesa for 50 years this month. The neighborhood is lovely, as are the neighbors. Many on our side of the street have been in place longer than I. We love our R1 neighborhood and would not like to lose it. The house across the street from us, we still call the Kavanaugh House, has had a steady flipping of owners since John Kavanaugh sold it. And I am concerned that whomever they are might not be as attached to an R1 as we are. Surprise. I would be very disappointed to see our block lose the R1 designation and the ambiance. So I'm concerned that the new bedroom, because it is detached, would be rented to a stranger rather than used for a family member. Not so. It is a small house, as is, and could use another bedroom. Our neighbors on that side of the street have tastefully added on nothing quite mansionizing to the neighborhood, so I'm counting on the city to see that this does not become the first R2 plus housing. And I suspect it wouldn't. I'm looking forward to meeting the new neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
So, this is fantastic. Don't you love what he said? They bought the house because they like the character of the neighborhood, and then they don't want to tear it down and put up a McMansion. They like what they bought, they just want to embellish it. So I hope going forward, the city would take more applications like this and fight the McMansionization and the guy across the street from you, your new neighbor. Anyway, he did the same thing. He could have. He's in the building or whatever. He could have. I think he's an architect, but he liked the character of the neighborhood, and he embellished the home without destroying it. I don't, you know, so I just really appreciate people that do things like this, but the lady that just spoke, this is going to become an issue, we all know, because there's a housing shortage. And I totally believe you guys. But in the future, I think when people say they need this huge closet, and then it suddenly becomes an extra bedroom, or they need this office, and then that becomes, they have to have a full bath, that becomes a bedroom for, like, I know, sober living. And, but I just worry that a wine storage place might also be a good kitchen. Not for this applicant, but just something to be aware of. If you look at the plan, it's right there. It's perfect plumbing. It could easily become a kitchen. So, for other, not this guy, not these people, they seem straight on, but you know what I mean, the hustlers that come in. Thank you.
All right, any other members of the public wish to address this item? Okay. Sir, you have an opportunity to come back up and address any of the comments. You don't have to. Or if any of the commissioners have any more questions for the applicant. So you have an opportunity if you want, or you don't have to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, you want to make a motion so we can discuss?
Mr. Chairman, microphones are really sensitive. So I move that we find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines Section 15303, Class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures, and approved planning application 18-45, subject to conditions of approval in Exhibit B.
Second.
Oh, okay.
All right, any discussions on the motion?
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Harlan. Really charming residents. Love the remodel. I think I understand perfectly what they're trying to do. Fortunate young men that have you as parents, because I would have loved to have a little place I could sneak off to when I was growing up. Anyway, excellent design. Good luck with it, and I hope it turns out to be everything you hope it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to address Ms. Parker's comment or concern about the potential for this to become an ADU. We have asked for, we require, the applicant has agreed to a land use deed restriction. We can't do anything more than that. I think that amply covers the city. And while we might have some suspicions, I just deal with what's in front of us here. So I think that's appropriate, and the applicant has agreed to it. We can't ask anything more. I might slightly question the wisdom of having a wine collection nearby a college-age student, but I'll leave that up to you.
I was going to say a locking door. Chairman.
Well, I echo the sentiments of Commissioner Harlan on the safeguards that the condition of approval offers to people who might be concerned about occupancy creep. What I'd like to say about the project, I like it. I like a lot of things about it. I like the level of preparation that you have put into your project and your work with the city and your presentation to staff. And it's quite obvious that the preparation that you have put into this has translated into success. And I suspect that's the kind of individual you are. And it's kind of exciting because I also suspect those are the kinds of kids you're raising. I also like the intelligent and purposeful design of your project. The fact that the doors open to the courtyard, to me, clearly signals the intent of your occupancy of the property. You're not trying to set it up as a rental unit or that sort of thing. And I think that's clear from your design. And I think the nature of the project adds value to the neighborhood. It's that kind of investment that I think makes a stronger community. I also appreciate the compliance of your project to the city's ordinances, particularly the parking. I'm very sensitive to that. I also like the fact that you've kept it single story. I think that not only preserves the character of the home, which is what you were intending to do, but I think it also helps with the overall look of the neighborhood. So anyway, I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Any other comments on the motion? All right, there's a motion and a second. I'm going to go ahead and call for the question.
That motion carried 5-0.
All right, and that decision can be appealed to the City Council and becomes final in 7 days. Thank you very much. All righty, moving on here. Public Services Report.
No reports this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Development Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing really to report. I did want to echo some of the comments from some of the commissioners that they made. It's been our pleasure to serve you while I've been working for the city and working with you on the Planning Commission. We're going to do, I think, something official for you at a future meeting, so I don't want to take a lot of time tonight, but it has been staff's pleasure to work with you, and it's always been, you've been challenging. I think you've helped make us better staff, and you talked about our reports. Our intent is to make the best reports we can to help the commission make decisions, and you've been very helpful to me in what you want to see in those, and I appreciate that. So I just want to take a second to say we appreciate you, and we'll miss having you here. And but we do, I think, we would like to come back with something a little more official at the future meeting. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. City Attorney.
Nothing to add.
All right. Well, great. Well, that concludes the meeting. We'll go ahead and adjourn to the next Planning Commission's regular meeting of February 11th, 2019 at 6 p.m. right here. So thank you very much for attending, and have a great evening.